Good.
All good, Gav?
You just said, yeah, all good.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Freshen things up a bit, Joe, for this one.
Yeah, I think from England to Wales, we made a few changes, and we've done the same thing again this week. We're trying to build a squad going forward, and that's part of it, and it helps us sustain a competitive element to our squad, because I think if you're not internally competitive, it's hard to be externally competitive. At the same time, there's a lot of continuity as well.
This team, the squad, the last 2 weeks have been getting a fair old love bombing from around the
Really?
world. That must be nice. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it must be nice. But does it make you feel a little bit uncomfortable at the same time?
Look, I'm permanently uncomfortable. I think anything somebody else says, I just know how good Scotland are. I know how good we're going to have to be, and I know that we've got things that we're working on, things that were not as good as they could have been against Wales, and other things against England, and things tend to undulate a little bit in any high performance environment. As much as you'd love them to be pretty much linear on the rise, that never really becomes the case.
Your record against Scotland is excellent, obviously, as Ireland coach. Only one defeat. What did you target then in the Scotland team, and are still those same things that you can target now?
I think different things at different times, to be honest. I think the Scotland team is as strong a Scotland team as I've seen. I think the balance they have across the board is really impressive. Right through from their tight five. Obviously, Scotland have always had a really good back row. I remember we used to call Hamish Watson the pinball, because we couldn't ever actually grab hold of him. He would bounce off tackles and get through things and get through a power of work. He was a real dynamo. But in Darge, Ferguson, they've got Jamie Ritchie, really good back row. Obviously, the backs. I'd have seen a lot of Finn over the years. Blair Kinghorn's been around for a long time. They're kind of hitting that sweet spot, I think, of between 30 to 60 caps and 25 to 30 years old, and where they've got enough maturity, experience to be in the right, probably with the right amount of confidence and experience to be able to adapt the game as it needs to be done. Some really, obviously, good strike players, both wingers. Duane van der Merwe, obviously, I think he's obviously been a standout, but Darcy Graham's been electric. And through the midfield, Sione is pretty well known to our boys, obviously, Tui Podoru, and Hugh Jones, I'd know pretty well. He's a guy who's elusive and brings a real experience to the midfield as well. So pretty hard to pinpoint a weakness as such.
Joe, can I just ask you about a couple of changes that you've made just in the forwards?
Yep.
Fraser and Nick Frost. What was the thinking there, and was the 6-day turnaround, was that part of the thinking in terms of your strategy?
Less the 6-day turnaround, more the fact that they both played 80 minutes and they had accumulated quite a bit of fatigue and a few knocks. So they're okay, but our plan for the week was to get up here and train Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. As it happened, we've been quite limited in what we've done, and maybe they could have been all right by now, but we just thought we've got a confidence in the squad, and it was important to demonstrate that. And also, I do think that, as I mentioned before, we made a few changes and between England and Wales and again this week.
When you say you're limited in what you've done, is that weather related?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the grounds are frozen, and Scotland, the SAU, were super today. They let us onto Murrayfield so that we could train, and it meant that we could actually get a session on the grass, and hopefully, you know, that just sharpens the boys ready for Sunday. So yeah, we massively appreciated that. We've been conscious of other places that have been frozen as well, and you know, keeping an eye on some of the other matches that are coming up. I think I saw a few snapshots. I haven't seen anything written, but Italy, France, they look like they were training in snow. It does look like this Arctic blast has certainly impacted across the board. There was even, somebody said there was snow in London on Tuesday, which is pretty unusual.
Sorry, do you have to lessen your training, you know, load when you're on 4G or something like that?
Yeah, we would certainly go lighter and less duration, less density, so we wouldn't do as much in a short space of time, which is fine. At this end of the season, you know, maybe it's not a bad thing just to be a little bit more intentional with what we are trying to cover, and not trying to kind of overrun.
So what was the thinking on the wing? Obviously, given Harry Potter his debut over Jorgensen, what was the thinking there?
Yeah, Max was exactly like the other two boys. We're trying to let him heal a bit. He's just a kid of 20 years old, and so Max is still he's still growing into the game. He's an exciting young prospect though, and I think he's learning really fast. He's great in the environment, but we just thought Harry's played a lot in this hemisphere and quite successfully. So it's a good opportunity to give Harry his first start, and we've, I suppose, intentionally given a number of guys the opportunity to put their hand up this year from July through the TRC through the tour here so far.
Given that, as you said, you intentionally, I think Harry's going to be the 18th debutant. What condition is the squad in now? Are you pretty close to deciding on a more settled squad, or will you continue to get more people?
Yeah, I'd like to think so, but you know, and it's certainly not just me. You know, I think scrums push hard. You know, I wouldn't be an expert at scrum time, so you're obviously leaning on your coaching staff, you know, about what your line out combos are, what your best scrum is. So there's an opportunity probably for another couple of guys that might come up through Super Rugby next year, but yeah, we're getting to know more and more about the players. I went down and watched the Australian 15 train last Thursday in Bristol before they played the Saxons. So, you know, that's probably the broad group at the moment. It still goes across two squads, and obviously some of those guys from that squad joined us for this week.
You remember the 1984 Grand Slam squad. Have you abolished all talk of that?
Well, yeah, I do talk to Andrew Slack a little bit. He was skipper of that side, and Slacky he's a top man. He remembers well that Grand Slam tour. So you know, 40 years on, would love to emulate it, but we're not trying to emulate it. We're just trying to win this weekend and trying to have a good week's training, or a good week's preparation, I suppose. It hasn't quite been training as often as we would have normally, but it doesn't mean you can't prepare yourself mentally for the hurdle that's coming.
Joe, there might have been a time when, you know, you wouldn't have felt like you had the depth to rotate a player like Fraser out. You know, what's the balance that you've got in your mind about the value of continuity versus the trust in a guy like Carlo Tizzano to come up?
Yeah, it's a good point. I suppose Fraser got injured before TRC. Carlo played both South African games and the 2 games in Argentina. He made 66 out of 67 tackles. He got half a dozen turnovers and added value. Again, when somebody gets an opportunity and takes it, I'm not saying that Fraser didn't come straight back in for the Bledisloe Cup games and play really well, and he's played well so far. But I think it's a vote of confidence for how Carlo went, and they're quite different players, and so for us, that's also a little bit of a shift that we have to make, particularly. The back row will be a bit different this week with Harry coming back in as skipper, and that balance is a little bit different as well.
David Campese says you're winning him over, and that you're making him eat his words. Does it make any difference to you at all what David Campese says?
I don't know what his words were. The people I have to win over are the players in front of me. If they've got confidence in what we're doing, with the key behaviours that we're driving, the strategy that we're trying to develop, they're the guys. If they have confidence in it, then hopefully other people externally will develop confidence in it, because they'll see players playing with confidence and with a know-how that benefits the ability to stress teams, and at the same time to remain fairly solid defensively.
Are you surprised, Joe, that the last 2 games have gone so well? Are you kind of not ahead of schedule, but has anything that's happened on this tour surprised you?
Look, I try not to be surprised by anything, including if it doesn't go so well, just because I'm trying to track player performance individually and collectively week to week. And I know people would have been disappointed with TRC winning 1 of 6 games, but you are playing the best, some of the best teams in the world, and I'm not saying that England and Wales aren't up there, and Scotland certainly are, and we know Ireland are, but I felt like we were making progress through that competition, and I know that in Argentina we won, and then you're leading a game 20 points to 3 after 30 minutes, and then we did fall off a cliff, and a lot of that is to overchase the game and inexperience. It's been great having a little bit more experience back in, the likes of Will Skelton and Samu Karevi briefly, but that at the same time, the guys that we have extended the opportunity to, I think the vast majority of them have really stepped up and given it everything. And while that wasn't enough to beat the All Blacks at the end of TRC, we saw what we felt was progress, because you can judge yourself by results, but you can't really control the result, but you can control how you approach the game and what you delivered in the game as much as possible.
You've only lost one.
Couple, please.
You've only lost 1 game here in this city. What did you learn from that? And I suppose it's a roundabout way, a cheeky way of asking about the bus and the comments that Scottish rugby fans would have taken great joy out of over here.
Yeah. We were a bit late arriving that day. And I'll never forget saying to VC, he's a great mate of mine, Vern Cotter was coaching Scotland, and my wife and son were staying with VC and Millie and their family, and so we got to the ground, and I said, VC, we've only got 26 minutes to warm up, and he said, people are useless. I said, give them 20. And so that's VC for you. There's no sympathy. You just get on with it. And I remember kind of being out of the game early, and Scotland started really well. Did a great line-out special against us as well, scored a super try, I think it was Dunbar. But we actually got back into that game and got our nose in front, and Greg Laidlaw kicked a couple of goals at the end. He's now, funnily enough, he's he's the coach of Samu Karevi. So I was just talking to Greg the other day, and had caught up with him when I was with the All Blacks, we played in Japan. Caught up with Greg for a coffee. He's a top man. So, yeah, VC. He might have mentioned it a couple of times since then, and fair play to him. He's just had a great season coaching the Blues back in Super Rugby. So, he did a great job. But I think Greg is doing a great job as well. I think Scotland play a fantastic brand of rugby. They're quick. They during the World Cup, I think outside of the All Blacks, they're the team that played the width more than any other team. So you got to be good across the field, but then they have some very good direct runners, like our punchy Australian skipper there, Sione Tuipulotu, or Scottish, as he is now. And I think he's done super. It reminds me a little bit, of a few other guys who've come up here, or we had Bundy Aki in Ireland or Bundy Oaki in Ireland who was super, so those guys who can add a bit of value, going right back to the John Leslie sort of days. So there's always been a decent link. I do think that Dunedin, they call it the Edinburgh of the South in New Zealand, and I've played on the wing at Carisbrook and been frozen to death, so I think it's similar in that respect, because I was pretty cold out there at training today as well.
Can I ask one more if there's time?
Can I just check on Taliana Tupu, what's his situation?
Yeah, Taniela, he's fit to play, but at the start of the week we weren't sure, and we've kind of made a commitment through the tour to show confidence in the squad. So Taniela is he got through training today, but that was we didn't want to leave it till Friday to find out what our level of fitness was going to be for the team. So, and Alan Alalatoa, he's a massive leader for us. He was skipper last week, and really, it was a little bit of a toss-up whether to keep him or reinstate Harry, just because they're both really good in leadership terms. But then at the end of training today, the two guys who spoke were Alan and Harry anyway. I thought Zane Nongor probably played his best game for us so far. I thought Zane came on and did really well. So again, it's just demonstrating our confidence in the wider squad, and at the same time wanting to give our players as much certainty as possible, knowing that they're fit when they go out for the last training of the week.